We'll move him to a nursing home and sell the house. Those 9 words, spoken by my own daughter, ended the family I spent 70 years building and started a war she never saw coming. My name is Roger Bennett. I'm 70 years old. I live in Portland, Oregon, and for 43 years I built commercial properties from bare dirt into landmarks. Started with nothing but a surveyor's certificate and a construction loan. Worked weekends, missed holidays, turned gray before 50. But I built something. Left Vanessa opportunities I never had. Thursday evenings were ours. Had been since she was 8 years old. I'd show up at her place with takeout. It didn't matter if she was tired or busy or halfway through her own dinner. It was our time. It started as a way to stay connected after the divorce and became a ritual. She loved Thai food. Still did, far as I knew. Green curry, extra basil, the little place on Hawthorne that's been there 30 years. I pulled into her driveway in Beaverton around 6:30. Nice neighborhood, trees older than most marriages. Her house was one of those modern craftsman jobs, expensive, tasteful, the kind of place that says, "We made it," without shouting. I'd helped with the down payment. Thought it was an investment in her future. Black Mercedes in the driveway. Didn't recognize it. I sat there a moment, bags warm in my lap, looking at that car. Vanessa drove a Lexus. Mark drove a BMW. Whose Mercedes? Probably nothing. Maybe a coworker, maybe someone from Mark's firm. Still felt wrong. I grabbed the bags and walked to the front door. Didn't knock. Never did on Thursdays. This was our tradition. She expected me. I had a key, but I rarely used it. I just walked in, called out, and made myself at home. The door was unlocked. I stepped inside. The house smelled like furniture polish and something floral. One of those plug-in air fresheners Vanessa loved. Everything looked expensive and unused. White couches, glass tables, framed prints that probably cost more than my first car. "Vanessa," I called, not too loud. I didn't want to startle her. Nothing. Then I heard it. Voices, low, coming from the dining room. I set the bags down on the entry table. Quiet now. Instinct taking over. Moved toward the sound. The dining room was off the main hallway, separated by one of those pocket doors that slides into the wall. It was halfway open. Vanessa's voice, but it's cold, businesslike. Nothing like the warmth I'd heard my whole life. "We need to move quickly on this. If we wait too long, he might resist." That stopped me. Move quickly on what? Mark's voice next. Her husband. Smug, dismissive, the tone he used when he thought he was the smartest person in the room. "He won't resist. Roger's too proud. He'd never admit he needs help." A third voice. Male, older, professional, the kind of voice that charged by the hour. The key is positioning this as concern, not control. Estate liquidity becomes significantly more complex if he's deemed competent and combative. I felt something cold slide down my spine. They were talking about me. I moved closer, slowly, stayed in the hallway, just out of sight. The pocket door gave me a narrow angle into the room. I could see them hunched over the dining table, papers everywhere. Mark had his reading glasses on. Vanessa was leaning forward, pen in hand. The man I didn't recognize wore a suit, 50s maybe, wire-rimmed glasses. A briefcase opened beside him. My name was on the papers. I could see it from where I stood. Roger Bennett, over and over. Legal-sized documents, letterhead. I realized, with a clarity that felt like falling, exactly what I was looking at. They were planning my life, and I wasn't invited to the meeting. Before you go any further, do me a favor. Drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. I want to know how far this story travels. And if you've got the time, let me know what time it is where you are. I'm curious who's listening to an old man's reckoning at 3 in the morning versus 3 in the afternoon. I stood there like a ghost in my own story. Invisible, irrelevant, already erased. I'd walked into that house expecting laughter. Maybe Vanessa teasing me about bringing too much food again. Maybe she was telling me about her week while we unpacked containers at the kitchen counter. Instead, I got this. A corporate strategy session, with me as the asset to be liquidated. I stayed frozen in the hallway. Every instinct screamed to walk in there, slam my hand on that table, demanding to know what the hell they thought they were doing. But something older and wiser kept me still, keeps me listening. You don't survive 40 years in commercial real estate without learning when to gather information before you make your move. Vanessa's voice again. Still that cold, clinical tone I didn't recognize. The cabin complicates things. It's titled separately. Can we fold it into an estate transfer? The cabin. My cabin. The one I built with my own hands on the Oregon coast. Weekends across 3 summers. Every board, every nail. Vanessa used to help, handing me tools when she was 12, laughing when I hit my thumb, bringing me lemonade when the sun got too hot. Now she was discussing it like a line item. Mark laughed. Actually, I laughed. Once it's handled, that cabin's finally ours. Been waiting years for a place on the coast. My jaw tightened. I'd invite them out there every summer. Offered it for anniversaries, long weekends, anytime they wanted. They'd been twice. Said it was too rustic. Now Mark wanted it? The attorney, I still didn't know his name, spoke with that measured, careful tone lawyers use when they're explaining why something immoral is technically legal. The cabin can be managed through the same trust restructuring. What we're discussing is a measured transition of asset control, predicated on diminished capacity. You'll need documentation, medical assessments, statements from family confirming cognitive decline. He's 70, Vanessa said. Simple, matter of fact. Like that explained everything. I'd run a multi-million-dollar business until I was 68. Retired because I wanted to, not because I had to. My mind was sharp. Sharper than Mark's, that was damn certain. I still did my own taxes, read contracts for friends, helped neighbors navigate insurance disputes. But to Vanessa, 70 meant obsolete. The attorney continued. Does he have close relationships outside immediate family? Friends who might object? Other relatives who could contest? No, Vanessa said quickly. Too quickly. My mother passed away 6 years ago. He doesn't have siblings. His friends are all golf buddies, superficial. No one who'd interfere. She'd just erased my entire life in 3 sentences. 40 years of friendship reduced to superficial. Men I'd stood beside at weddings and funerals. Golf buddies who wouldn't care if I vanished into some facility. Maybe she was right. Maybe they wouldn't fight for me. But that didn't mean I wouldn't fight for myself. Mark shifted in his chair. I heard papers rustling. What about the house? The Portland house? Sellable, the attorney said. Market's strong. He's been there 30 years. Equity's substantial. Liquidating that asset alone would fund premium care for a decade, with a significant remainder for estate distribution. Premium care. They made it sound generous, like they were doing me a favor. I'd bought that house when Vanessa was 6. 3 bedrooms, big backyard, neighborhood where kids could ride bikes without fear. I'd repaired every leak, painted every room, planted the cherry tree out front that now shaded the whole yard. It wasn't an asset. It was my home. Timeline? Vanessa asked. All business now. How fast can we move? If he's cooperative, 60 days. If contested, 6 months minimum. Possibly longer if he hires representation. He won't, Mark said. Confidence. Smug. Roger's too proud to admit he needs a lawyer. He'll see it as admitting defeat. They knew me, knew exactly how I'd react, knew which buttons to push, which meant they'd been planning this for a while. I should have walked away. I should have left right then, gone home, called my own attorney in the morning. But I needed to hear it all. I needed to know exactly how deep the betrayal went. So I stayed, a ghost in my own daughter's hallway, listening to them plan my erasure. The attorney pulled out another document. I watched him slide it across the table toward Vanessa. These are the facilities I'd recommend. All reputable. 3 tiers, based on budget considerations and level of care required. Budget considerations. Like I was a car lease. Vanessa picked up the paper. I saw her eyes scan down the page. Mark leaned over, reading alongside her. This one's $9,000 a month, Mark said. That's excessive. $9,000. I paid more than that in property taxes. But Mark, who drove a $70,000 BMW and wore suits that cost more than most people's rent, thought $9,000 was excessive for keeping his father-in-law housed and fed. The second tier is more reasonable, the attorney said. $5,000 monthly, shared accommodations, Standard care protocols. Still quite adequate. Adequate. That word landed like a punch. Vanessa tapped the paper. What about this one? The 3,500 option? I felt something crack in my chest. The attorney hesitated. Just a fraction. That's serviceable. State certified. Meets minimum requirements. But I'd categorize it as budget tier. High resident to staff ratio. Limited amenities. But legal? Vanessa pressed. No liability issues? Perfectly legal. Then that's the one. She said it simply, without hesitation. We're not throwing away premium tier money when the cheaper options accomplish the same thing. The same thing. Warehousing me until I died, she meant? Mark nodded agreement. Makes sense. He's 70. He won't know the difference in 5 years anyway. Probably won't know the difference between the two. I don't know the difference. I'd built a company, raised a daughter alone after her mother left, taught Vanessa to drive, to balance a checkbook, to negotiate, put her through college without loans, helped her buy her first car, her first house, been there for every milestone, and in 5 years, according to my son-in-law, I wouldn't know where I was or who put me there. The attorney cleared his throat. Professional discomfort, the kind that vanishes once the retainer check clears. There's the matter of resistance. If Mr. Bennett objects, he will, Vanessa interrupted. Initially, but we frame it right, he'll comply. Dad responds to logic and structure. We tell him the house is too much to maintain. Tell him we're worried. Tell him this is temporary, just until he regains strength. Lying to me. That was the plan. Manipulate me into giving up everything I'd built, everything I owned, under the pretense of temporary help. And if he doesn't buy it? The attorney asked. Silence. Then Mark spoke, voice hard. Then we'd document everything, every forgotten appointment, every repeated story, every bill paid late. Build a case for incompetence. Force the issue legally. They were going to manufacture evidence. Gaslight me into seeming senile. I'd never felt rage like that before. Pure, clarifying, the kind that burns away everything except focus. Vanessa sighed, not sadly, tiredly, like this was all very tedious. I hate that it's come to this, but we can't wait anymore. The money's just sitting there. The house is appreciating. We have kids to think about. College funds, our future, their future, built on my erasure. The attorney started gathering papers. I'll draft the initial documents. You'll need to get him to sign a medical power of attorney. Once that's in place, the rest follows naturally. How do we do that? Mark asked. Tell him it's standard estate planning. Tell him everyone his age should have one. Get him in a comfortable setting, familiar, casual. Have the document ready. Most people sign without reading if you present it correctly. A trap. They were setting a trap. Vanessa stood. I heard her chair scrape back. Thank you, Mr. Sterling. Send the retainer invoice to Mark's office. Sterling. Now I have a name. They shook hands. Professional. Cordial. Like they'd just closed a real estate deal, not planned the systematic destruction of a man's autonomy. One more thing, Vanessa said. The timeline. You mentioned 60 days if you are cooperative. We're thinking faster. Maybe 30. Is that possible? Aggressive, Sterling said. But manageable if everything aligns. Make it happen, Mark said. The sooner we move, the less chance he has to complicate things. They were talking about me like I was an obstacle, a problem to be managed and neutralized. My daughter, the little girl I'd rocked to sleep, who'd cried on my shoulder when her first boyfriend broke her heart, who'd walked down the aisle gripping my arm like she'd never let go. She didn't want to help me age with dignity. She wanted to auction off the man I used to be and pocket the proceeds. I pulled out my phone, switched it to silent, opened the camera app, and started taking photographs through the gap in the pocket door. Every document on that table, every page, the trust amendments with my name on them, the nursing home brochures with prices circled in red, the sale estimates for my cabin, the one I'd built with my own hands across 3 summers when Vanessa was still young enough to think her father could do anything. The camera made no sound. I angled carefully, got clear shots of everything I could see. Sterling's business card, the legal letterhead, Vanessa's handwritten notes in the margins. They kept talking, oblivious, planning, scheming, counting money that wasn't theirs yet. I photographed it all, every piece of evidence I'd need. When I had enough, when I was certain I'd captured every relevant detail, I backed away from the door, silent, careful. My heart hammered, but my hands were steady. 40 years of high-stakes negotiations taught me how to control the physical response to rage. I walked back to the entryway, picked up the Thai food bags, still warm, felt obscene, holding them, like bringing flowers to a funeral. I opened the front door, stepped outside, closed it behind me with a soft click. I walked to my truck, got in, set the food on the passenger seat, started the engine. If you've ever been stabbed in the back by a family, hit that subscribe button. This story is for you, because what I did next made sure Vanessa would remember every word she said in that room. I drove home in silence. No radio, no distractions. Just me and the road and the cold, clarifying fury that comes when you realize the people you loved most see you as nothing more than a liquidation event. They thought I was weak, though I was old. I thought I wouldn't fight. They were about to learn exactly who Roger Bennett was and what happens when you try to bury a man who's not dead yet. I built her an empire, and she couldn't wait for me to die so she could spend it. Portland rain hit the windshield in sheets. January rain, the kind that's more mist than drops, that seeps into everything and makes the whole city feel gray. I turned the wipers on. I watched them drag water back and forth. I don't remember the drive home. Not really. Muscle memory took over. 40 years of these streets, these routes. Left on Hawthorne, right on 39th, merge onto I-84, then back surface streets toward Laurelhurst. My mind was elsewhere, replaying her voice. He's 70. He won't know the difference in 5 years anyway. Clinical, dismissive, the way you'd talk about a car with high mileage, not worth the premium maintenance. Basic service would do. I tried to reconcile that voice with the child I remembered. 8 years old, gap-toothed, climbing onto my shoulders at the zoo because she wanted to see the elephants better. 10 years old, crying in my arms because kids at school were mean. 16, nervous before her driver's test, gripping my hand in the DMV parking lot. I love you, Daddy. You're my hero. She'd said that. I remembered it as clearly as yesterday, the night before her wedding. We'd stayed up late, just the two of us, talking about life and marriage and the future. She hugged me tight, told me she'd never forget everything I'd done for her. 5 years later, she was shopping for the cheapest place to warehouse me. Where did that little girl go? Maybe she never existed. Maybe I'd built her in my imagination, constructed a daughter out of hopes and selective memory, ignoring every warning sign that the real Vanessa was someone else entirely. Or maybe I'd funded her transformation. Every tuition check, every down payment, every safety net I'd provided. Maybe those killed the daughter I thought I had and bred this stranger who saw me as a balance sheet. I'd worked weekends when she was young, missed birthdays, missed school plays, told myself I was building her future, told myself she'd understand someday, told myself that providing was the same as loving. Turned out I'd provided her with everything except character. The cabin came to mind. My cabin, the one they wanted to sell. I built it myself. Summer when Vanessa was 6. Bought raw land on the Oregon coast near Cannon Beach. Nothing but sand and scrub grass and the smell of salt air. Spent 3 months of weekends out there with a hammer and a level and a stack of lumber. Vanessa came with me sometimes. She'd hand me nails, bring me water, sit on a stump and watch me work, asking 1,000 questions about how houses got built and why wood had to be treated, and could we paint her bedroom pink. I'd painted it pink. The cabin had 2 bedrooms. Hers was pink with white trim and a window that faced the ocean. She'd loved it. Spent summers out there through high school. Brought friends, brought boyfriends, brought Mark back when they were dating. They'd spent weekends in my cabin, using my sheets, eating food from my kitchen. Now Mark joked about it finally being theirs. The cabin I'd built with my daughter watching. The cabin where I'd taught her to fish and cook crab and respect the ocean. The cabin that held every good memory I had of us together. Mark wanted it. Vanessa was going to give it to him, and neither of them saw anything wrong with that. I pulled into my driveway, sat there with the engine running, rain hammering the roof, staring at my house. 4 bedrooms, empty except for me. I bought it 30 years ago for Vanessa. Good schools, safe neighborhood, room to grow. She'd grown, moved out, moved on, and now she wanted this too. I wanted to sell it, liquidate the last piece of the life I'd built. Estate liquidity, that's what Sterling had called it. Like my home was just trapped capital waiting to be released. I turned off the engine. The silence felt enormous. Everything I'd worked for, every sacrifice, every missed moment, it had all led here. To bring a line item in my daughter's budget, to be worth less than a decent vacation, to being something she needed to handle and transition before I complicated things by existing too long. I got out of the truck. I walked to my door, let myself into my empty house, and started planning how to make sure Vanessa never saw a single dollar of any of it. She wanted to manage my money? Perfect. I'd make sure there was nothing left to manage. I poured bourbon, 2 fingers of Maker's Mark in a crystal tumbler my ex-wife had bought 20 years ago, sat down in my study, the room I'd worked from for decades, surrounded by plaques and awards and photographs of buildings I'd developed. 40 years of work, 40 years of deals, 40 years of turning empty lots into shopping centers and office parks and residential developments that employed thousands and housed tens of thousands. I'd been good at it, built a reputation, built a fortune, and my daughter thought I was too senile to notice her planning my disposal. I sipped the bourbon, let it burn, stared at my desk covered in papers I'd been reviewing, investment statements, property assessments, tax documents. I wasn't declining. My mind was sharp, sharper than Mark's certainly, probably sharper than Vanessa's, though I'd tried not to think that way. A father wants to believe his child surpassed him, but sitting there, replaying everything I'd heard, I realized the truth. Vanessa wasn't smarter than me. She was just greedier, and she'd mistaken my generosity for weakness. She'd made a miscalculation, a bad one. I pulled out a legal pad, started writing. Estate attorney, top of the list. Not Sterling. God, not Sterling. Someone with a reputation for protecting clients from predatory heirs. Catherine Wu. I'd heard her name in business circles. Aggressive, expensive, exactly what I needed. Accountant. I needed someone to restructure my entire financial picture before Vanessa could act. Foundation attorney. Because if Vanessa wanted my money gone, I'd make it gone. Just not to her. Financial planner. Someone who specialized in irrevocable trusts. The kind Vanessa couldn't contest or dissolve or weasel her way into. I kept writing. Names, numbers, strategies. Vanessa had made this easy. She'd shown me exactly what she wanted. My assets, my property, my life reduced to numbers on a spreadsheet. Fine. I'd give her numbers. 0. That's a number. By midnight, I had a plan. By 3 a.m., I'd refined it. By 5 a.m., I'd made my first call. Catherine Wu's emergency line. The one her assistant had told me once was for truly urgent matters. This qualified. She answered on the 3rd ring. This is Catherine. Ms. Wu, my name is Roger Bennett. I need to restructure my entire estate by Monday, and I need it airtight enough to survive a challenge from a predatory heir. Are you interested? Silence. Then, I'm listening. I told her everything, every word I'd overheard, every document I'd photographed, every detail of Vanessa's plan. When I finished, Catherine Wu's voice had gone from professional to personally offended. Mr. Bennett, I've been practicing estate law for 23 years. This is among the most calculating situations I've encountered. I'd be honored to help you protect yourself. Can we meet Monday morning? 8 a.m. My office. Bring those photographs. Bring every financial document you have. We'll make sure your daughter inherits exactly what she deserves. I hung up, made another call, and another, and another. By sunrise, I'd contacted 12 people, attorneys, accountants, advisors. Every single one agreed to see me immediately. Every single one got angry on my behalf when they heard what Vanessa had done. Turned out I wasn't alone. Turned out this happened more than anyone wanted to admit. Children circling aging parents like vultures, calculating inheritance while the parents were still breathing. But I wasn't going to be a victim. Wasn't going to let Vanessa's greed define my final years. I finished my bourbon, watched the sun come up over Portland's east side. Vanessa wanted to treat me like an asset to liquidate? Fine. I'd liquidate myself from her life entirely. Every dollar she'd counted on would vanish. Every property she'd planned to sell would be gone. By the time she realized what was happening, there'd be nothing left but signatures on paperwork she'd never see coming. The war Vanessa started was about to end before she knew it had begun. I didn't cut Vanessa out of my will. I erased her from my financial universe entirely. Monday morning, 8 a.m. sharp, I sat across from Catherine Wu in her downtown Portland office. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the Willamette River, expensive furniture, law degrees from Stanford and Georgetown on the wall. This woman didn't lose cases. I needed someone who didn't lose. I slid my phone across her desk. Start with photograph number 1. She scrolled through them. Slowly, her expression shifted from professional curiosity to barely contained fury. When she reached the nursing home comparison chart, the one with Vanessa's star next to the $3,500 option, her jaw tightened. "Your daughter wrote this?" she asked. Her handwriting. I'd recognize it anywhere. Catherine set the phone down, looked at me with the kind of direct eye contact that made me understand why she won cases. "Mr. Bennett, I've seen predatory estate planning. I've seen greedy heirs. But this is systematic, calculated. She wasn't worried about your care. She was optimizing her profit margin. That's why I'm here. What do you want?" I want every dollar she was counting on to disappear. Legally, permanently. I want it done so thoroughly that no attorney she hires can undo it. And I want it done fast before she realizes what's happening. Catherine Wu smiled. Not a pleasant smile. A predator's smile. How fast? She mentioned a 30-day timeline in her planning. I want mine done in half that. She opened her laptop, started typing. "Walk me through your complete financial picture. Every asset, every account, every property. Don't leave anything out." I spent 2 hours detailing 40 years of accumulated wealth, real estate holdings across 3 states, investment portfolios, business interests, retirement accounts, the cabin, the house, bank accounts Vanessa didn't even know existed. Catherine took notes, asked questions, mapped everything on a digital flowchart that looked like a military operation. When I finished, she leaned back. "You've built something substantial, Mr. Bennett. Most of our work will be making it unreachable." "How?" She turned her laptop toward me. The flowchart had transformed into a strategy map. "We're going to use every legal tool available. First, we revoke any trusts or documents where Vanessa has any access, oversight, or succession rights. That happens today." "Today?" "I'll file emergency revocations this afternoon. Oregon law allows it if fraud or undue influence is suspected. Those photographs give us grounds." She clicked to another screen. "Second, we restructure your wealth into vehicles she can't touch. Irrevocable charitable trusts, private foundations, educational endowments. We'll fund causes that matter to you, ensure your legacy reflects your values, and, as a side benefit, remove every dollar from potential inheritance." I thought about that. Charities, causes, things that would outlast me and actually help people. What causes? What matters to you? I considered it. Addiction recovery, homeless services. My brother died homeless in 1987. Drank himself to death on the streets. Maybe if someone had cared. Catherine typed. "We'll establish the Robert Bennett Memorial Foundation for Addiction Recovery and Housing Services. You fund it. It operates in perpetuity. Vanessa never touches it. Robert, my brother's name. He'd been gone 38 years, but the pain stayed fresh. He'd been the smart one, the funny one, the one everyone thought would make it. Instead, he'd died in a Portland alley at 43 years old. Alone and forgotten. Vanessa had met him once when she was 3. She didn't remember him, never asked about him. never cared that her father had a brother who died scared and alone and convinced no one loved him. Yes, I said, Robert's Foundation. That's perfect. Catherine made more notes. What else? Education. Real education. Trade schools. Community colleges. Not just universities. Kids who want to learn a craft. Build something with their hands. Done. We'll establish education endowments at Portland Community College and Oregon trade schools. Students training to be electricians, plumbers, carpenters, the people who actually build things. She looked up. Your daughter won't see $1 of this. These trusts are irrevocable. Once funded, they're untouchable. Good. She clicked to another screen. Now the properties. Your cabin and your house. Both are significant assets. Both are things she specifically targeted. How do you want to handle them? I thought about the cabin. Pink bedroom. Ocean view. The place I'd built with my own hands while Vanessa handed me nails and asked about paint colors. The cabin goes to Oregon State Parks. I want it preserved, protected, open to families who can't afford coast property. Never developed, never sold, never touched by Vanessa or Mark. Catherine smiled again. That predator's smile. Conservation easement. We donate it to the Oregon Parks and Recreation Department with restrictions that prevent development, sale, or private transfer. It becomes public land. Forever. Yes. And the house? Life estate. I will live there until I die. After that, it goes to Habitat for Humanity. They can sell it, use the funds to build homes for people who actually need them. She typed rapidly. That's roughly $1.2 million in equity. Habitat will build at least 12 homes with that. Your daughter inherits nothing. Exactly what she deserves, I said. Catherine worked for another hour. Documents appeared on her screen. Trust agreements, donation papers, revocations, title transfers. Everything cross-referenced, everything ironclad. By Wednesday afternoon, we'd finished. Every asset redirected, every loophole closed, every dollar accounted for and moved beyond Vanessa's reach. My entire financial legacy, 4 decades of work, now belonged to strangers who needed it more than my daughter wanted it. Catherine printed the final summary, handed it to me. This is what Vanessa inherits under your new estate plan. I looked at the page. Single line, single number, $0, 0 cents. She'll fight this, Catherine said. She'll hire attorneys, claim undue influence, diminished capacity, whatever she can think of. Can she win? No. You're 70, not 90. You're cognitively sharp. We'll have you evaluated by a neuropsychologist this week to document that. You're acting with a sound mind and clear intent. The photographs prove her malicious planning. No judge will side with her. How long until she knows? That depends. Do you want to tell her? Or let her find out when she tries to access something and discovers it's gone? I thought about that. About Vanessa opening a letter, reading it, realizing what she'd lost. She should know why, I said. She should understand exactly what she did and what it cost her. Catherine nodded. I'll prepare a notification letter. Formal. Clinical. Just facts. She gets it certified by mail. When? Friday. 3 days from now. It'll arrive Saturday. Give you the weekend before she can respond. I stood, shook her hand. Thank you, Catherine. No, she said. Thank you. I've been practicing law for 2 decades, and nothing satisfies me more than protecting decent people from their terrible children. I left her office feeling lighter than I had in days. But I wasn't done. Vanessa needed to know exactly why this was happening. Vanessa thought she'd inherit millions. Instead, she got one piece of paper that said, 0. Thursday afternoon, I sat in my study and wrote the letter. Not on a computer, by hand, black ink, my father's fountain pen, the one he'd carried through Korea and given me when I graduated college. I wanted Vanessa to know I'd taken time, that this wasn't impulsive, that every word was chosen carefully. Vanessa, by the time you read this, you'll have received formal legal notice that every trust, account, and property interest you expected to inherit has been dissolved, redirected, or irrevocably donated. I want you to understand why. On Thursday, January 2nd, I came to your home carrying Thai food, our tradition, the one I'd kept for decades because I thought it mattered to you. I walked in expecting to share a meal with my daughter. Instead, I overheard you, Mark, and your attorney discussing the cheapest nursing home option you could warehouse me in while you liquidated my assets. You chose the $3,500 per month facility, not because it was adequate, because it was cheap, because, in your words, I'm 70 and won't know the difference in 5 years anyway. You discussed selling my cabin, the one I built with my own hands while you handed me nails and painted your pink bedroom. Mark joked about it finally being yours. Neither of you saw the cruelty in that. You planned to trick me into signing medical powers of attorney under false pretenses. Your attorney called it positioning this as concern, not control. You called it necessary. I call it fraud. You referred to my life as a burden, to my property as trapped capital, to my future as a timeline for transition. You were never concerned about my welfare. You were optimizing your inheritance. I responded accordingly. Every trust you mentioned has been dissolved. Every property you planned to sell has been donated. Every dollar you counted on has been redirected to charitable foundations, educational endowments, and addiction recovery services, causes that actually help people instead of funding your entitlement. My cabin is now Oregon State Parks property, preserved forever. Families who can't afford oceanfront property will use it. You and Mark never will. My house operates under a life estate. I will live here until I die. After that, Habitat for Humanity sells it and builds homes for people who need them. Your inheritance is exactly what you valued me at. 0. This isn't revenge, Vanessa. It's respect. Something you failed to show me. You wanted me gone so you could spend my money. Congratulations. You got half your wish. I'm gone from your life. But the money went somewhere better. If you think this is unfair, consider what you plan to do to me. Consider the nursing home brochure. Consider the 30-day timeline. Consider that you were willing to strip away my autonomy, my home, my dignity, and thought I'd never find out. I found out. I documented everything. I acted. Don't bother calling. Don't show up. Don't send Mark. We have nothing left to discuss. You wanted to treat me like a problem to be managed. Fine. I've removed myself from your problems permanently. Roger. I read it 3 times. Nothing changed. Sealed it in an envelope along with the legal summary Catherine had prepared, the one showing every trust dissolved, every asset redirected, every inheritance line reading 0. Friday morning, I drove to the post office. Send it certified mail, signature required. Vanessa would sign for it Saturday afternoon, and then she'd know exactly what she'd lost. If you think Vanessa got what she deserved, drop a like right now, because what happened next was even better. She cried, she screamed, she begged, and I felt nothing, because that's how she'd made me feel. Saturday, 2:47 p.m. My phone rang. Vanessa's name on the screen. I'd been expecting this. Sat down in my study, bourbon already poured, and let it ring 3 times before answering. Dad. Her voice cracked immediately, crying. Dad, I got your letter. Please, we need to talk. I said nothing, just listened. Dad, please, you have to understand. We didn't mean. You misunderstood everything. Still nothing from me. Her crying intensified, harder, louder, the kind of sobbing that sounds performative even when it's real. Daddy, please talk to me. Please, I'm your daughter. I love you. This is all a huge misunderstanding. I heard you, I said finally, voice flat. I heard every word, standing in your hallway, listening to you price nursing homes like you were shopping for a used car. No, that's not what. We were just exploring options, in case you ever needed help. We weren't trying to. $3,500 a month, I interrupted. Shared accommodations, adequate care. You picked the cheapest option and put a star next to it. Silence. Then, we were just being practical. The expensive ones are a waste of money for. She stopped herself, but I heard what came next even though she didn't say it. For someone who won't know the difference, I finished for her. More crying. I didn't mean it like that. Yes, you did. Dad, please. Her voice shifted, less crying, more desperate. Whatever you think happened, Whatever you think you heard, we can fix this. We can sit down and talk. As a family. You stopped being my family when you discussed selling my cabin with Mark, when he joked about it finally being his. He didn't mean that. He was just, I built that cabin with my own hands, Vanessa. You were 6 years old. You helped me. Remember? Pink bedroom, ocean view, summers together. Of course I remember. Then how could you sell it? No answer. Just breathing on the other end of the line. You can't, I said, because it's gone. Oregon State Parks owns it now. Public land. Forever. A sound like all the air left her lungs. What? Everything's gone. The cabin, the house, the trust, the accounts, all of it. Donated, redirected, removed from your reach permanently. You can't do that. Her voice turned hard, angry. The crying stopped. You can't just, that's my inheritance. That's my future. My kid's future. No, I said. It was my money. I earned it. I built it. And I decided it should help people who actually need it instead of funding your entitlement. This is insane, she was yelling now, full volume. You're being irrational. You're careful, I warned. Don't say what you're about to say. She said it anyway. You're acting like you're not capable of making these decisions. Like you need someone to what, Vanessa? Manage me? Control me? Put me somewhere cheap while you spend my money? Silence again. That was your plan, I continued. Document my incompetence. Build a case. Force the issue legally. Your attorney explained the whole strategy. I heard that too. How did you weren't supposed to. I wasn't supposed to find out, I finished. That's the problem, isn't it? You thought I'd never know, though I was too old, too trusting, too stupid to realize my own daughter was planning my disposal. It wasn't disposed of, screaming now. We were trying to help you, trying to make sure you'd be taken care of. At $3,500 a month, shared accommodations, minimum care. Because it's practical, because it's cheap, I corrected. Because you valued comfort and care less than you valued keeping my money for yourself. She started crying again, different this time. Harsh, angry sobs. Fine. You want lawyers? I'll get lawyers. I'll fight this. You can't just steal my inheritance. I almost laughed. You can't steal what was never yours. Every attorney I spoke with said the same thing. I'm competent, acting of sound mind, fully within my rights. You have no case. We'll see about that. We will, I agreed. I've already been evaluated by a neuropsychologist, scored in the 95th percentile for my age, documented proof of cognitive capacity. You want to claim I'm incompetent? Good luck. More silence. Then, desperately, what about your grandkids? What about Emma and Jacob? You'd really do this to them? And there it was. The nuclear option. Using my grandchildren as weapons. I've set up education trusts for Emma and Jacob, I said calmly, managed by third-party trustees, fully funded through college and graduate school. They'll never want for educational opportunities. But I can't. You can't touch it, I interrupted. That's correct. The money is theirs, not yours. Trustees disperse it directly to educational institutions based on the kids' needs and goals. You never see a cent. You bastard. There it is, I said. The real Vanessa. Took longer than I expected. How can you do this? How can you throw away your own daughter? You threw me away first, I said quietly. I was just faster at making it official. She sobbed, begged, called me names, switched between crying and yelling and pleading, told me I was cruel, told me I was destroying the family, told me she'd never forgive me. I let her finish. Then I said, "You're right. I am destroying the family where my daughter saw me was a financial burden, the family where my son-in-law joked about stealing my cabin, the family where strangers made plans for my future without my knowledge or consent. That family needed to be destroyed. Dad, don't call me that. You stopped being my daughter when you priced nursing homes like shopping for discount furniture." I hung up. The phone rang again immediately. I declined the call. Rang again. Declined. Vanessa called 17 more times that evening. I never answered. Each call went to voicemail. Each message was some variation of crying, begging, threatening, blaming. I deleted them without listening to most. By midnight, The calls stopped. I sat in my study, bourbon finished, looking at my phone. 20 missed calls, 15 voicemails, 3 text messages, increasingly desperate, increasingly angry. I felt nothing. No guilt, no regret, no sadness. Just the cold, clear satisfaction of knowing I'd acted first, acted decisively, and acted correctly. Vanessa wanted my money. Instead, she got a lesson about consequences. But Mark wasn't done, and what he tried next crossed a line even I didn't expect. When Mark showed up drunk at my door, he proved I'd made exactly the right decision. Saturday evening, 8:16 p.m. I'd just finished a quiet dinner, leftover roast chicken, green beans, glass of red wine, when I heard pounding on my front door. Not knocking, pounding. Fists hammering wood like someone was trying to break through. "Roger," Mark's voice, slurred, angry. "Roger, open this goddamn door." I set down my wine glass. I walked to the front hallway. Didn't open the door. I had a Ring camera, installed it 2 years ago when package theft became a problem in the neighborhood. I pulled up the app on my phone. Mark swayed on my porch, red-faced, tie loosened, jacket off, definitely drunk. He pounded again. "I know you're in there. Your truck's in the driveway. Open up." I called 911. Calm, professional. "This is Roger Bennett, 2847 Laurelhurst Drive. My son-in-law is intoxicated and causing a disturbance on my property. I'd like a police response." The dispatcher asked if I was in immediate danger. "Not yet," I said, "but he's escalating." She told me officers were on the way. "Stay inside. Don't engage." I had no intention of engaging. Mark kept yelling, "You selfish old bastard. You can't do this. You can't just steal Vanessa's inheritance." I watched through the camera. He tried the door handle. Locked. "Good. That's our money," he shouted. "We've been waiting for years. You're 70 goddamn years old. What do you need it for? You'll be dead soon anyway." There it was. The truth underneath all the polite pretense. I was just an obstacle between Mark and my money. An inconvenient biological delay before he could cash in. He pounded harder. The door shook. "Open up. We need to talk. Man to man." Man to man. Like he had no standing. Like showing up drunk and belligerent at an old man's house demonstrated anything except what he truly was. I heard sirens in the distance. Mark heard them too. He stopped pounding. I looked around, confused, trying to locate the sound. "Are you fucking kidding me?" He yelled at the door. "You called the cops? On family?" "You're not family," I said, loud enough for him to hear through the door. "You're a drunk trying to intimidate a 70-year-old man on his own property." "Intimidate? I'm trying to talk sense into you. By screaming threats while intoxicated?" 2 patrol cars pulled up, lights flashing. No sirens now. Mark turned, saw them, tried to compose himself. Failed. He was too drunk, too angry, too far past the point of pulling back. 2 officers approached. Both young, both professionals. 1 male, 1 female. "Sir, we received a call about a disturbance," the male officer said. "No disturbance," Mark said, slurring. "Just talking to my father-in-law." By pounding on his door and yelling threats? I wasn't threatening. I was just, "We heard you from the street," the female officer interrupted. "Something about him being dead soon?" Mark's face went from red to pale. "That's not, I didn't mean." I opened the door, stepped onto the porch. Both officers turned toward me. "Mr. Bennett?" the male officer asked. "Yes, thank you for coming. Do you know this man?" "He's married to my daughter. He showed up intoxicated approximately 15 minutes ago. He's been pounding on my door, yelling threats and trying to force entry." "That's not true," Mark shouted. "I wasn't trying to break in. I just wanted to talk." At 8 p.m. on a Saturday, drunk, yelling, I said calmly, "Without invitation or warning." The female officer looked at Mark. "Sir, have you been drinking?" "I had a couple drinks. It's Saturday night." "That's not. How did you get here?" Silence. Mark's face showed he'd just realized the trap. "I drove." "You drove here intoxicated, showed up at a private residence uninvited, and created a disturbance." "He's family." "He's also asking you to leave," she said, firm, no room for argument. Do you want to leave voluntarily? Or do we need to arrest you for trespassing and public intoxication? Mark stared at me, pure hatred in his eyes. This isn't over, Roger. Vanessa's going to fight you. We're going to get lawyers. We're going to prove you're not competent to make these decisions. Threatening him again, the male officer noted, right in front of us. That's not a threat. Sounds like one to me, I said. Especially after everything I heard at my daughter's house last Thursday. Mark went still. What did you hear? Everything. Your attorney, Mr. Sterling, was very thorough. All those lovely plans about nursing homes and asset liquidation and timelines. I heard every word. His face changed. Recognition, horror, understanding that I'd known all along, that this wasn't impulsive, that I'd acted with full knowledge of their plan. You son of a bitch, he whispered. That's enough, the female officer said. Sir, you're leaving. Now. We can arrange a taxi or I'll drive. No, you won't. You're intoxicated. If you attempt to drive, we'll arrest you. Mark looked between the officers, me, and his BMW parked in my driveway, calculating, realizing he'd lost this round completely. Fine, he spat. Call a taxi. They did. Made him wait on the sidewalk. Off my property. The male officer took my statement. I showed him the Ring camera footage. Showed him the audio of Mark's threats. Showed him the timestamps. Do you want to press charges? The officer asked. I thought about that. Consider it. But criminal charges would just make Mark a victim. Give him sympathy. Give Vanessa ammunition. Not tonight, I said. But I want this documented. Report filed. In case there's a next time. Smart, he said. You should also consider a restraining order if he contacts you again. I will. The taxi arrived. Mark got in. Gave me one last look. Pure hatred. Before the car drove away. The officers left. I went inside. Locked the door. Poured another glass of wine. I opened my laptop. Emailed Catherine Wu. Attached is the Ring footage. Describe what happened. She responded within an hour. This is perfect. If Vanessa tries to claim elder abuse or manipulation, we have documented evidence of Mark's aggression and threats. Forward this to his employer on Monday. Create consequences. I thought about that. Mark worked at a mid-sized investment firm. Senior analyst. Good salary. They valued reputation. A criminal-adjacent incident. Drunk. Threatening. Police involvement. Wouldn't look good on a background check. Monday morning, I forwarded the police report and camera footage to Mark's firm. Politely. Professionally. Expressing concern about an employee who'd shown up intoxicated at my home, making threats. By Wednesday, Mark was fired. Vanessa called me 53 times that day. I answered none of them. Thursday, I received a certified letter from a law firm I'd never heard of, Vanessa's attorneys, threatening to sue for elder abuse, undue influence, and mental incompetence. I forwarded it to Catherine Wu. She laughed, actually laughed, called me immediately. Roger, they have no case. None. This is desperation. Let them burn their money on attorneys. Every hour they spend is an hour proving you were right about them. How long will this take? They'll give up in 6 months, maybe less once they realize you're not budging and their case has zero merit. And in the meantime? In the meantime, you live your life. Your assets are protected. Your legacy is secure. And Vanessa learns that actions have consequences. I hung up, sat in my study, looked around at 40 years of accumulated memories. Things got quieter after that, but the real damage was just starting to show. Vanessa built her life on appearances. I made sure everyone saw what was underneath. Portland's a city, but certain circles are small. Country clubs, business networks, charity boards. People talk, especially when Catherine Wu's firm moves against someone. Catherine had a reputation, 23 years practicing estate law. When her firm filed documents, people noticed. When those documents involved family betrayal and predatory planning, people remembered. Word spread quietly at first. A whisper at the Multnomah Athletic Club. A conversation over lunch at the Arlington Club. Did you hear about Roger Bennett's daughter? The estate attorney situation? Apparently she was planning to warehouse him. I didn't start these conversations. Didn't have to. The legal filings were public record. Catherine's firm was prestigious enough that people paid attention to their cases, and the details, nursing home comparison shopping, asset liquidation timelines, $3,500 monthly budgets, those details were ugly enough to travel on their own. Vanessa's book club stopped calling. She'd been part of it for 7 years. Monthly meetings, wine and discussion, the kind of social anchor that gave her identity. After the 3rd meeting she wasn't invited to, she called the organizer, left a voicemail asking if she'd done something wrong. The organizer never called back. Her country club membership lapsed, not dramatically, just quietly. Renewal came due, and suddenly the membership committee had concerns about alignment with club values. They didn't specify which values. They didn't have to. Vanessa had built her social life on the foundation of being Roger Bennett's daughter, the successful developer's child, the woman whose father had money and status and respect. When people learned what she'd tried to do to that father, the foundation crumbled. Mark's business connections dried up faster. I helped with that, not aggressively, just honestly. When old colleagues asked about Mark, whether he'd be good for a project, a partnership, a referral, I told them the truth. Mark showed up drunk at my house after I restructured my estate, made threats. Police were involved. I'd be cautious about professional associations. That's all it took. Portland's business community runs on trust and reputation. Mark had neither anymore. I saw Vanessa's Facebook posts. I'd never unfriended her. Wanted to see how she'd handle the fallout. She posted vague sympathy bids. Family is hard sometimes. Grateful for those who stand by you. Hearts and prayers emoji. The comment section told a different story. Most people ignored it. Didn't like, didn't comment. But one person, someone I didn't recognize, wrote, "Maybe you should have thought about that before planning to warehouse your father. Actions have consequences." I watched that comment sit there for 47 minutes. Watched Vanessa's friends see it. Watched no one defend her. Then the entire post disappeared. Deleted. But screenshots live forever. That comment circulated in Portland social circles for weeks. Vanessa tried damage control. Posted about family values. About forgiveness. About how we never know what someone's going through. The irony was lost on her. She hadn't wondered what I was going through when she picked the cheapest nursing home. Her perfect life, the one built on my money, my sacrifices, my reputation, collapsed in slow motion. Not dramatically, not overnight. Just a steady erosion of everything she thought was solid. Invitations stopped coming. Friends became acquaintances and strangers. Her social media presence shrank as people quietly unfollowed, unmuted, and moved on. I watched it all from a distance. I felt nothing. No satisfaction, no guilt, just the calm recognition that consequences, when they arrive thoroughly. Vanessa had built her life on appearances, on being the daughter of someone successful, on status and connections, and the assumption of future wealth. I'd removed the foundation. Everything else fell predictably, but the financial reality was about to hit them harder than any social embarrassment. Turns out Vanessa's perfect life was built on my money. Without me, it collapsed in 90 days. The first crack appeared 6 weeks after I cut her off. Vanessa's mortgage payment bounced. I didn't know this immediately. Learned it later through a mutual acquaintance, one of the few people who still talked to both of us, though carefully and separately. Apparently, Vanessa had called her in tears, panicking about foreclosure notices. The house she'd lived in for 8 years, the one I'd helped with the down payment on, was mortgaged to 90% of its value. I hadn't known that. Thought she'd been building equity, being responsible. Instead, she and Mark had been refinancing every time the property value increased, pulling out cash, spending it on renovations, vacations, cars, the lifestyle they wanted to project. The mortgage payment was $4,800 a month. On paper, Mark made enough to cover it. On paper. In reality, Mark's income had been supplemented for years by my loans. $10,000 here for a business opportunity, $15,000 there for an investment that would definitely pay off, $20,000 for Mark's failed attempt at day trading. I'd called them loans. Keep records. but I'd never expected repayment. I thought I was helping my daughter's family build security. Really, I was subsidizing their inability to live within their means. Without my money, the math didn't work. Mark's salary covered the mortgage or the car payments or the credit cards, not all three. They'd been living beyond their means for so long they'd forgotten what their actual means were. Vanessa tried to sell her Lexus. Turned out she owed more than it was worth. Underwater on a luxury car she absolutely didn't need, but couldn't let go of because it signaled success. She listed it for $38,000, owed $42,000. Nobody bought it at that price. She eventually traded it in for a used Honda Civic, rolled the negative equity into the new loan, and now paid $520 a month for a car worth $12,000. Mark's business ventures, the ones I'd bankrolled without realizing it, collapsed immediately. No more capital meant no more investments, meant no more pretending he was building something. He took contract work, financial analysis, consulting, whatever he could find, made about half his previous salary. No benefits, no security, just hourly billing, and the constant fear of gaps between projects. Vanessa tried to go back to work. She had a master's degree in education, something I'd paid for years ago, back when she talked about being a teacher. She'd never used it, got married instead. I had kids, decided teaching was beneath her earning potential. Now, 9 years later, she needed that teaching job, applied to 3 school districts, made it to interviews at 2. Both rejected her, politely, professionally, but the reason was clear. 9-year resume gap, no recent classroom experience, no references from the education field. The degree was worthless, without the work history to back it up. She ended up at Starbucks, part-time, minimum wage plus tips, 37 years old with a master's degree, making lattes and working closing shifts. I heard about this from the same mutual friend. She thought I'd feel guilty, thought I'd step in and help. Roger, she's really struggling. Maybe you could what? I interrupted. Give her money? After she planned to warehouse me in a $3,500 a month facility and sell everything I'd built? Silence on the other end. She made choices, I continued. She's living with them. That's how consequences work. Within 3 months, they lost the house. Foreclosure. Credit destroyed. Everything I'd helped them build, gone. They moved to a rental in Hillsborough, 2-bedroom apartment, 90-year-old building with parking lot views, $600 a month, less than half their mortgage, but it felt like a prison sentence after 8 years and a custom craftsman with a landscaped yard. Vanessa called me one more time, 4 months after I'd walked out of her dining room. Her voice was hollow, defeated. Dad, I'm losing my house. I let the silence stretch. Then, so did I, when you decided to take it. That's not, you wanted to sell my house, liquidate my equity, put me somewhere cheap while you spent the proceeds. How is what's happening to you any different? Because I'm your daughter. You stopped being my daughter when you treated me like a balance sheet. I have kids, Dad. Your grandchildren. Where are they supposed to live? In the apartment you can afford, like millions of other families. You're not special, Vanessa. You're just finally living at your actual income level instead of mine. I heard her breath catch, a sob building. Goodbye, Vanessa. I hung up. She never called again. I sat in my study afterward, bourbon in hand, and felt nothing. No guilt, no regret, no second guessing. Vanessa's perfect life had been a facade, built on my money, maintained by my generosity, sustained by my willingness to help without questioning whether the help was building strength or enabling weakness. Without me, it collapsed in 90 days, and I slept fine every night watching it happen. But then, 6 months later, Vanessa tried one last thing. When I saw Vanessa in that grocery store, I felt nothing, and that told me I'd finally healed. 6 months after our last phone call, I was shopping at Fred Meyer on a Wednesday afternoon. Retired life meant grocery shopping when everyone else was at work. No crowds, no lines, peaceful. I was in the pasta aisle, deciding between penne and rigatoni, when I saw her, 2 aisles over, visible through the gap in the shelves. Vanessa, pushing a cart, looking exhausted. She'd aged. More than 6 months should be accounted for. Her hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail. No makeup, clothes that looked worn, not stylishly distressed, just genuinely old. Her cart was half full of generic brand groceries, store-brand cereal, off-brand pasta sauce, the stuff you buy when every dollar matters. She looked up, saw me. I froze. I nodded politely, like you'd acknowledge a stranger, and went back to examining pasta. Choose the rigatoni. I placed it in my cart, started to move on. Dad? Her voice stopped me. Quiet, almost a whisper. I turned. She'd moved closer, stood at the end of the aisle, gripping her cart like it was the only thing keeping her upright. Can we talk? She asked. Please, just for a minute. I looked at her, really looked. I tried to see the daughter I'd raised, the girl who'd called me her hero, the woman I'd have done anything for. Couldn't find her. Just saw a stranger who looked tired and broken and desperate. We have nothing to discuss, I said. Calm, factual. Please. Tears started. Real ones, I think. Not manipulative. Just tired. I know I don't deserve it. I know what I did. But can we talk? 5 minutes. That's all. I glanced at my watch. You have 3. She stepped closer, left her cart, faced me in the pasta aisle of a Fred Meyer on a Wednesday afternoon. This wasn't how I'd imagined a final confrontation. No dramatic setting, no witnesses, just fluorescent lights and shelf after shelf of processed food. I'm sorry, she said, voice shaking. I'm so sorry, Dad. I was wrong. Everything I did was wrong. I was scared and stupid and greedy, and I hurt you in ways I can't take back. I said nothing, just listened. I've lost everything, she continued. My house, my friends, my life. Mark and I are separated. He's in Seattle now. The kids ask about you constantly. I'm working at Starbucks making minimum wage, and I'm 37 years old, and I know this is what I deserve, but... She stopped, wiped her eyes. Can you forgive me? Please. I know I don't deserve it, but you're my dad. You're the only parent I have left. Can we try to fix this? I thought about that, about forgiveness, about what it means and what it costs. Vanessa, I said slowly, I did forgive you. That's why I'm still living my life instead of hating you through yours. But forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation. It doesn't mean pretending it didn't happen. It doesn't mean letting you back into my life like you didn't try to destroy it. But you taught me something, I interrupted. You taught me that family is about respect, not blood. That being someone's daughter doesn't give you the right to treat them like property. That love without respect is just manipulation with a prettier name. She was crying openly now, not sobbing, just tears running down her face while she stood there in her worn clothes in a discount grocery store. You lost my respect, I continued. That's not something you can apologize your way back into. Respect is earned slowly and lost instantly. You lost mine when you calculated the cheapest way to warehouse me. I was sick, she whispered. I was depressed and scared, and then you should have told me, should have asked for help, should have been honest instead of conspiring with your husband and a lawyer to take everything I'd built. I know. Do you? Because from where I'm standing, you're sorry you got caught. Sorry you lost your house and your money and your comfortable life. But I don't think you're sorry about what you tried to do to me. I think you're sorry it didn't work. That's not true, isn't it? I asked. If I hadn't overheard you that night, if I hadn't been standing in your hallway, would you have gone through with it? She opened her mouth, closed it, couldn't answer, because we both knew the truth. That's what I thought, I said. I picked up my cart, started to leave. What about the kids? She asked desperately. What about Emma and Jacob? They miss you. They ask about Grandpa all the time. You'd really punish them to punish me? That stopped me. The grandchildren, the innocence in this mess. The kids didn't betray me, I said without turning around. You did. When I figure out how to have a relationship with them that doesn't involve you treating it like a doorway back into my wallet, I'll let you know. I walked away, left her standing there in the pasta aisle, crying quietly, holding on to her cart of generic groceries, made it to the checkout, paid, loaded my groceries into my truck, sat in the driver's seat for a moment, expecting to feel something. Guilt, sadness, regret. I felt nothing, just the calm, clear certainty that I'd made the right choice, that I'd protected myself, that I'd drawn boundaries and held them. When you feel nothing looking at someone who hurt you, not anger, not pain, just nothing, that's when you know you've healed. I started the truck and drove home, but this story isn't over. What happened next changed everything. Again, I didn't expect her letter. I didn't expect it to matter, but it did. 8 months after the grocery store encounter, I'd settled into a new rhythm. Volunteer work with the Addiction Recovery Foundation I'd established in my brother's name. Weekly dinners with old friends who actually cared about me as a person, not as a wallet. Time hiking, reading, living quietly. The routine suited me. No drama, no betrayal, no expectations beyond what I set for myself. Then Emma's birthday came around. March 15th. She'd be turning 10. I sent a card, enclosed a check for $50 made out to Emma directly, something she could deposit into her own account, something Vanessa couldn't touch. Wrote a simple message. Happy 10th birthday, Emma. Grandpa loves you. Mailed it. Didn't expect a response. Kids that age don't write thank you notes anymore. 3 days later, I got one anyway. The envelope was hand-addressed in careful penmanship. Emma's name in the return address corner. I opened it at my kitchen table. Inside was a drawing, crayon and colored pencil, a tall man and a small girl holding hands, ocean in the background, Grandpa and me at the cabin, written at the top in that same careful handwriting. The cabin I'd built, the one that was now Oregon State Parks property, the one Emma had visited every summer until she was 8. Below the drawing, a note. Dear Grandpa, thank you for the birthday money. Mom says I have to save it for college, but I want to buy art supplies. Can you tell her that's okay? I miss you. Mom says you and her had a fight, and that's why we don't see you. Jacob misses you too, but he doesn't say it because he thinks it makes Mom sad. I remember the cabin. I remember you teaching me to look for sand dollars. I remember the pink bedroom. Do other kids get to use it now? I hope you're not still mad. I hope we can see you again. Love, Emma. I read it 3 times. Sat there in my kitchen, this drawing in my hands, and felt something crack in my chest. Not the sharp break of betrayal. Something different. Something that had been frozen, starting to thaw. Emma was 10. Jacob was 7. They didn't understand estate planning or betrayal, or the calculated cruelty of adults plotting in dining rooms. They just knew their grandfather had disappeared, and they missed me. I'd been so focused on protecting myself from Vanessa, on maintaining boundaries, on proving points, on ensuring she faced consequences, that I'd forgotten about collateral damage. My grandchildren hadn't betrayed me. They'd just stopped seeing me because their mother had. I thought about my brother Robert, dead at 43 on a Portland street, alone because everyone who'd loved him had gotten tired of his disease, tired of the addiction, tired of trying. He died believing no one cared. Maybe we had cared, but we hadn't shown up, hadn't stayed, hadn't separated Robert the person from Robert the problem. I'd learned too late that you can love someone without accepting their behavior. Those boundaries don't require abandonment. Was I doing the same thing to Emma and Jacob, punishing them for their mother's sins? I looked at that drawing again. The tall man and the small girl, the ocean, the cabin, the careful handwriting asking if I was still mad. I picked up my phone, called Catherine. Catherine, I need to ask you something. If I want to see my grandchildren, establish a relationship separate from Vanessa, can I do that without it affecting my estate structure? She was quiet for a moment. You're thinking about the grandkids. Emma sent me a birthday thank you note, hand-drawn. She's 10 years old and she remembers the cabin. She asked if I'm still mad. Roger, I can't forgive Vanessa. I interrupted. I won't. But those kids didn't do anything to me, and I'm watching them lose a grandfather because I'm proving a point to their mother. Catherine sighed. Professional but understanding. Oregon has grandparent visitation rights. You can petition the court for structured access independent of your relationship with Vanessa. It makes clear this isn't reconciliation. It's you maintaining a separate relationship with your grandchildren. How does it work? Third-party supervised, initially, usually through a family mediator. You meet the kids in neutral settings, parks, public spaces. After a few successful visits, If everyone's comfortable, the supervision can become less formal. The key is documenting that this is about the children's well-being, not about Vanessa. She'd have to agree, she'd be notified, she could object. But given that you're a fit grandparent with no history of abuse or neglect, and given that maintaining family relationships is generally considered in children's best interest, a judge would likely grant it even over her objection. I thought about that, about lawyers and courts and formal petitions, about making this legal instead of personal. Do it, I said. File whatever needs to be filed. I want to see Emma and Jacob. You're sure? Once you open this door. I'm not opening a door to Vanessa, I interrupted. I'm opening one to my grandchildren. There's a difference. Okay, Catherine said. I'll prepare the paperwork. I hung up. I looked at Emma's drawing again, took it to my study and pinned it to the corkboard above my desk, right next to 40 years of business awards and achievements. A child's drawing, crayon and colored pencil. A tall man and a small girl holding hands, worth more than any of it. I couldn't forgive Vanessa, but I couldn't punish my grandchildren for her sins. The paperwork took 6 weeks. During that time, I wrote Emma back. Keep it simple, honest, the way you should talk to children. Dear Emma, your drawing is beautiful. I hung it in my study where I can see it every day. The cabin does belong to Oregon State Parks now. That means lots of families get to use it. Families who might not have their own place at the ocean. Kids get to play in that pink bedroom and look for sand dollars just like you did. I think that's good. Your memories there are still yours. I'm not mad at you or Jacob. I never was. Your mom and I have problems between us. Adult problems that aren't your fault and aren't yours to fix. But that doesn't mean I don't love you. I'm working on a way for us to spend time together. It might take a little while, but I'm working on it. About the birthday money. Buy art supplies if that's what makes you happy. College can wait. Creating things is important too. Love, Grandpa, I mailed it. It felt like a beginning. The court granted the visitation petition. Vanessa didn't object. Catherine said she'd actually seemed relieved, like she'd wanted to reach out but hadn't known how. The first visit was scheduled for a Saturday afternoon. Laurelhurst Park. 2 hours. A family mediator named Sarah would be present to observe and document that everything was appropriate. I arrived 15 minutes early. Nervous. Hadn't been nervous in decades. Not during million-dollar negotiations. Not during contentious zoning board meetings. But this was different. This was Emma and Jacob. This was trying to rebuild something I'd let break. They arrived with Vanessa, who looked older, tired, thinner. She stayed 50 feet back, per the court order. Sarah, the mediator, sat on a nearby bench with her clipboard. Emma saw me first. Her face lit up. Genuine, unguarded joy. She ran toward me. Grandpa! She crashed into me, arms around my waist, face pressed against my chest. I hugged her back, feeling that crack in my chest widen further. Jacob followed more slowly, uncertain. He'd been 5 when I'd left. Now 7. 2 years was a lifetime at that age. Hi, Jacob, I said, kneeling down to his level. He didn't say anything, just looked at me with those serious eyes. I missed you, buddy. Still nothing. Then, quietly, did you get my drawing? What drawing? I made you a picture at school, of us fishing. Mom said she'd send it, but I don't know if she did. I looked at Vanessa across the 50 feet of grass. She shook her head slightly, mouthed, It's at home. I'll send it. I haven't gotten it yet, I told Jacob, but I can't wait to see it. Will you tell me about it? He nodded, started describing the drawing, him and me on a dock, fish in the water, sun in the sky, all the details a 7-year-old considers crucial. Emma grabbed my hand. Can we go to the playground? We went to the playground. I pushed Emma on the swings, higher, higher, until she was laughing that free, unguarded laugh that kids have before life teaches them to be careful. Helped Jacob across the monkey bars, his small hand gripping mine with complete trust. Sat with them on the grass afterward. Emma told me about school, about her art class, about her best friend Sophia, about the book she was reading. Jacob showed me the rock collection he'd brought in his pockets. 5 rocks, each with a story about where he'd found it. "This one's from the beach," he said, holding up a smooth gray stone. "Mom took us last month. I looked for sand dollars like you taught me, but I didn't find any. They're tricky," I said. "You have to look right after low tide, right where the waves were. Can you teach me again?" I looked at him, this boy who barely remembered me, but still wanted me to teach him things. "Yeah, buddy, I can teach you again." 2 hours passed too quickly. When Sarah the mediator said it was time, Emma's face fell. "Already? I'll be back next Saturday," I promised. "Same time, same place, if you want." "I want," Emma said firmly, then quieter. "Can we do it every week? Not just every other week?" I looked at Sarah. She smiled. "Let's see how it goes. But that's something we can discuss." Walking back toward Vanessa, Jacob slipped his hand into mine. Didn't say anything, just held on. When we reached the boundary where Vanessa waited, Emma hugged me again. "I love you, Grandpa." "I love you too, sweetheart." Jacob hugged me too, still quiet, but he whispered, "Don't leave again, okay?" I felt something in my throat. "I won't, buddy, I promise." They walked back to Vanessa. I watched her kneel down, talk to them quietly, saw both kids nodding enthusiastically, saw Emma pointing back at me, clearly recounting everything we'd done. Vanessa looked at me, just for a moment. Her expression was complicated. Grateful, sad, ashamed, hopeful, all of it at once. I nodded. Once. Acknowledgement, not forgiveness. She nodded back. Understanding, not expectation. I drove home feeling something I hadn't felt in months. Not happiness exactly, but purpose. Connection. The sense that I was doing something right. The kids didn't know about trusts or betrayals or nursing home comparison shopping. They just knew their grandfather had come back. And I realized that was enough. That was everything. I couldn't forgive Vanessa. Maybe never would. But I could be a grandfather. Could show up every Saturday. Could teach Jacob to find sand dollars and listen to Emma's stories about art class and Sophia and books. Because they deserved better than being collateral damage in a war between adults. And then, a year later, something happened I never expected. Vanessa and I will never be what we were, but we found something new, honest distance. 18 months after that first park visit, the world had changed shape around the edges. I saw Emma and Jacob every Saturday. 2 hours became 4 hours and became whole afternoons. We graduated from supervised park visits to unsupervised time. Movies, hiking, teaching Jacob to fish at a stocked pond, helping Emma with art projects in my study. My house had kids in it again. Lego sets on the coffee table, juice boxes in the refrigerator, drawings on the fridge held up by magnets. It felt alive in a way it hadn't in years. Vanessa and I didn't speak much. Logistics only. Text messages. Picking them up at 10. Emma needs to be back by 4. She has a birthday party. Jacob left his jacket at your place. Civil. Transactional. No warmth but no hostility either. I learned things about her life through the kids. She was working full-time at a nonprofit doing grant writing. She'd been promoted twice. She and Mark had separated. He was in Seattle now. They talked about divorce sometimes, but hadn't filed. She lived in a small apartment in Gresham. The kids described it as cozy, which I suspected meant cramped. Emma mentioned they ate a lot of pasta and rice. Jacob said Mom always bought the store brand cereal now. I didn't offer help, didn't soften, kept every boundary exactly where I'd placed it, but I made sure the kids were taken care of. New winter coats when theirs got too small, school supplies, art materials for Emma, a fishing rod for Jacob, all given to the children directly. Nothing through Vanessa. Jacob's 7th birthday fell on a Wednesday. Emma called me. She had a phone now, carefully monitored by Vanessa, and asked if I'd come to his party. It's just at our apartment. Mom's making cake. Just a few friends from school. Can you come, Grandpa? I hesitated. The apartment meant Vanessa's space, extended time together, more than the brief handoffs we'd maintained. Please? Emma added. Jacob really wants you there. He told everyone at school his grandpa's coming. I'll be there, I said. The party was exactly as Emma described. Small apartment, modest furniture, 3 of Jacob's friends from school, dollar store decorations, a chocolate cake that Vanessa had clearly baked herself, slightly lopsided, but covered in elaborate frosting decorations. Jacob's face when he saw me, pure joy. "Grandpa, you really came. Wouldn't miss it, buddy. Happy birthday." Vanessa stayed mostly in the kitchen, bringing out food, cutting cake, facilitating the party but staying peripheral, giving space. After the friends left, after presents, after Jacob had eaten 2 pieces of cake and was bouncing off the walls with sugar energy, I helped clean up. Emma and Jacob played in Jacob's small bedroom. Vanessa and I stood in the narrow kitchen, washing plates. The silence wasn't uncomfortable, just a present. "Thank you for coming," she said finally, not looking at me, focused on scrubbing a plate. "He's my grandson." "I know, but you didn't have to. You could have just sent a gift." "I wanted to be here." She nodded, set the clean plate in the drying rack, picked up another. We finished the dishes without speaking. I dried my hands on a kitchen towel, worn thin, the pattern almost faded. "They talk about Saturdays all week," Vanessa said quietly. "Emma counts down the days. Jacob tells everyone at school about fishing with Grandpa." I said nothing. I didn't know what to say. "I know I don't deserve this," she continued. "You were in their lives after what I did. I know you're doing it for them, not for me. I wanted you to know it matters. To them. To me, too. Even if I don't have the right to say that." I looked at her. Really looked. Saw someone who'd aged more than the months should account for. Someone who looked tired and worn, and genuinely different from the woman who'd picked nursing homes with stars in the margins. "How are you doing?" I asked, surprised myself with the question. She looked up, equally surprised. "I'm managing, working. The job's good. I actually like it. Helping nonprofits get funding for programs that matter. Pays enough to get by. And Mark? Seattle, contract work. We talk about the kids. That's about it." She paused. "I think we both know it's over. Just haven't made it official yet." I nodded. "The kids seem okay." "They are. Better than they should be, probably. Kids are resilient." She set down the dish she was drying. "I'm in therapy. Have been for a year. Working through everything. Depression. Decisions. Who I became. I didn't ask for details. Didn't offer absolution. Just listened. I know we'll never be what we were," she said. "I destroyed that. I know you'll never trust me again. Never forgive me. Probably. But I'm trying to become someone who doesn't deserve that kind of judgment. Even if it's too late for us." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you're here. In my home. At my son's birthday party. And I want you to know, I understand what that costs you. What you're setting aside to be here for them. I thought about that. About what it cost. About walking into the apartment of the woman who tried to warehouse me in a $3,500 a month facility. It doesn't cost me anything," I said. "I'm here because I want to be. Because Emma and Jacob matter to me. Not because I'm setting aside anything. But you still hate me." "No," I said, and realized it was true. "I don't hate you, Vanessa. Haven't for a while. Hate takes energy. I don't have energy for that. But you don't forgive me. I forgave you for me. So, I could move on. But forgiveness doesn't mean that we have come back. Doesn't mean trust. Doesn't mean pretending it didn't happen." She nodded, eyes wet. "I know." I picked up my keys. "I should go." "Dad?" I turned. She hadn't called me that in 18 months. "Thank you for being their grandfather even though I'm their mother." I looked at her. This woman. My daughter. The stranger. The person somewhere in between. They deserved better than being casualties. I said, "That's all this is." I left. Drove home. Sat in my study with Bourbon and Emma's newest drawing, a garden with flowers. A butterfly. For Grandpa. Written carefully at the bottom. The months that followed established a new normal. Every Saturday with the kids. Occasional school events where Vanessa and I stood on opposite sides of the auditorium, but acknowledged each other with brief nods. Text messages about logistics that gradually, almost imperceptibly, became slightly less cold. Not warm, not friendly, but civil, respectful in a distant way. One Saturday, dropping the kids back at their apartment, Vanessa walked me to my truck. The kids were already inside, visible through the window, arguing about what TV show to watch. "Can I say something?" she asked. "Go ahead. I know we'll never be what we were. I know I can't fix what I broke, but I see you with them, with Emma and Jacob, and I see the father you were, the one I took for granted, and I want you to know I'm trying, not to win you back, not to get anything, just to be someone they can be proud of. I looked at her, saw genuine effort, genuine change, or at least the beginning of it. Keep trying, I said. Not for me, for them. She nodded. I will. That was it. No hugs, no dramatic forgiveness, no reconciliation. Just two people who'd hurt each other finding a way to exist in the same world without destroying each other again. I drove home through Portland's evening traffic, thought about the past 18 months, about Emma and Jacob, about Vanessa standing in her small apartment thanking me for being a grandfather despite being her father, about the fact that I'd been happy lately, genuinely happy, not in spite of what happened, not because of it, just happy, living on my terms, building relationships I chose, maintaining boundaries I needed, giving love where it was earned, and withholding it where it wasn't. Vanessa and I would never be what we were. The father-daughter relationship that died in that dining room was gone forever, but we'd found something else, something honest. We existed in parallel, parents to the same grandchildren, respectful, distant, connected through Emma and Jacob but separate in every other way. I didn't forgive her in the way she probably wanted, didn't restore her to my life or my trust or my estate, but I stopped hating her, stopped carrying that weight. I found a way to be present for my grandchildren without betraying myself in the process, and that was enough. Sometimes, honest distance is all you can have, all you should have, and sometimes, that's exactly enough. If you made it this far, drop a like and let me know in the comments. Have you ever had to set boundaries with family? How did it turn out? I read every comment. I want to hear your stories. And subscribe, because life's full of people who need to learn that respect isn't negotiable, and I've got more stories about what happens when they finally figure that out, or don't. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.